everybody.
Oh,
Hello.
Got caught at the red light.
How are
Good to
you?
see you.
Good.
All right.
Hi, team.
Hello.
Good. You happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
There's Mike.
Mike has joined us, and Mike, because this is one of your first meetings, I do need to let you know, as a third board member, you are allowed to watch, but you are not allowed to comment or engage. Otherwise, we would have a quorum violation. So just keep that in mind. So then go ahead and share the agenda screen. Let me start the last conference.
So Jennifer, are you gonna drive this boat?
Drive this boat?
Uh-huh,
No.
okay, okay. I mean, in the past, when I've said it on meetings, you've
Yeah.
been the one talking, so,
Yeah. So now
well, that's okay. I want to make sure that I'm staying in my lane.
I will be doing that role in facilities. I'm gonna
Okay.
chair facilities.
Very good,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we learned from Henry Ford, distributed labor,
Distributed.
right? That's the way organizations thrive.
It was muted.
So I spent 8 hours en route for a 2-hour flight.
Yeah.
Where were you come from?
It is.
Oh, wow.
It's bad anyway, because you gotta, actually, I was going to Tucson. The connections are wonky with Phoenix, so it was gonna be long. And then all these things happened.
Did you fly to San Diego?
Fly back to San
Yeah,
Diego.
yeah.
So it was like, okay.
Yeah, the company I worked for, our corporate office was in Tucson, so it was always a challenge trying to get a direct flight out of San Diego to Tucson without going through Sky Harbor.
Exactly. Well, you know them.
Yeah.
And then somehow a United airline in San Diego got stuck right where.
All right,
we
Mike,
had to
since you're
go.
there, can you just let us know if you are hearing audio now?
Yep.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right. All right, Mr. Chair of the Finance Committee.
Good afternoon. So we're going to start our finance committee meeting for today, January the 4th. And do I need to read a bunch of this stuff on here?
You can
Okay,
simply
start
say
with-
you're calling us to order and ask for roll call.
Okay, and so we'll start with the roll call.
Director Jeffries,
Present?
Director Brown,
Present.
and on Zoom, we have Director Stent.
Okay,
Who is a potted plant and will not be making comment today,
for the record.
for the record.
Okay.
And then typically, Terry, you can either read out the comments or the public comments announcement, or you can refer to it since we don't have anyone really in the room.
Let me practice and I'll do it. How's
So
that?
you got it.
Mhm.
So for those who want to make any public comments, members of the public may address the board regarding any item listed on the agenda at the time the item is being considered. Members of the public attending in person need to fill out a request to speak card, and those attending by webinar need to raise your hand at this time and identify the agenda item they would like to speak to. The board has a policy limiting any speaker to not more than 5 minutes. So that having been done, let's start with our financial statement review. And these statements are available online for the public to look at.
Correct.
And those of us who need to be able to talk about it have our copies.
Correct.
So we're looking at the transition from October to November. So these are the November 30th operating results. And November balance sheet liability and equity line is 11,674,908 versus October of 10,970,731. with an increase of $704,000. And I will be rounding from time to time.
That's fine. The complete numbers are in the reports.
Precisely. And the increase is due substantially to the fact that we got our revenue stream from our property tax collections from the state. That's about right?
Yep.
Okay. With regard to the income statement, the net income for November is a positive $678,878, and also due in large part to the larger than budgeted tax apportionment revenues that we receive. Profit and loss actual versus budget. Based upon the approved budget, the district is over budget in year-to-date net income by $143,000. And on a year-to-date basis, that is helped by the receipt of the revenues for the month of November, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm getting this.
And then typically, this would be when we are looking at that far right-hand column to see at percent of budget year to date, to see if there's any expenditures that are over or under budget to a percentage that causes or requires additional information.
Or explanation, exactly. And so that is part of report number 3
Correct.
for the profit and loss, and the percentage variance is on the far right-hand column for those who are looking at the statement. And I have reviewed the P&L for the period and looked at those. Jennifer, did you have any concerns or issues with regard to those numbers?
I do not. I'm pleased to see variations that are manageable and understandable. We've had explanations for several of them, and we're functioning quite well within our expected margins, so I'm fine with it.
Fair enough,
Mhm.
fair enough. And let's look at the Health and Wellness Center. Any issues that raise any questions there in your mind?
No, I see patterns of expenditures that comport with our direction for program development, and we're under budget at 88% of the projected amount, so we're good there.
Fair enough. And with regard to our funding of community health contracts,
Glad to see they're being paid.
Yeah.
They count on us, so this is a good thing.
The only one I will point out is you'll see the third from the bottom, the JPA ambulance. You're gonna see that sit at 0 for this fiscal year. That is, I've just actually had a communication with Kevin Moore over at North County Fire. They will have to buy a new ambulance in the next fiscal year. And then if you've recently read the newspaper, you saw that one of their ambulances got creamed.
T-bone.
And so that was one of the older vehicles that had been rebuilt in support from the health district. Due to the way insurance works, they expect that the chassis of that machine will be fine, and that they'll just have to replace the new box, which is less expensive, and the insurance will completely pay for that. So that in some way actually gives both of us that bonus of not having to pay for it because the insurance will pay for it. That was one of the vehicles that was going to eventually have to get on this list for refurbishment.
did they have a timeline when that vehicle would be back out of the shop, so to speak?
That vehicle will not ever be put back into service. It'll have to be completely rebuilt from the chassis. The new one that they're getting, they're looking at that being December of 23. That other vehicle, they'll be lucky if that comes in around the same time.
Mhm, mhm.
I was just glad that the two
Two drivers,
personnel
paramedics,
weren't hurt badly, although they had to be transported.
They are now back home, and I didn't ask if they're back in service yet, but I know that they are.
They're
Not.
gonna have to have their box rebuilt.
They're gonna have to their box rebuilt.
Would that be something that we would direct on to the board for board agenda item discussion, since it's a large amount of money that may not be required of us?
That, the new one was already built into our JPA grant agreement.
Mhm.
So that was already expected, which is why I had it in this year's budget. It got pushed back due to supply chain, which is why we're not gonna see it for almost a year. The other one wasn't even on our radar yet. So
Okay,
nothing really new to add for that.
gotcha. Let's see, the approved annual budget. We're ready to move on to item number 4, right? Report number 4. Okay.
Yep.
That is the one that we're living with through June 30th of this year.
Yes.
The local agency trust fund, I assume this is this thing from California State Treasurer.
Yep, it's called LAIF, and it's one of our investment vehicles.
Okay, you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah. So that is one of the investment vehicles we have. It reports quarterly interest only, which is why you'll see a statement for 2 months in a row that typically show total in 0, total balance change, typically 0, because they haven't posted anything to it. Both LAIF and CalTrust, which is the upcoming, are very conservative investment vehicles that are allowed for municipalities, special districts of this sort.
Mhm.
You'll have, I believe in front of you in your treasurer's report, the cost value information, fair market value information. And then typically we would read that part out loud, and that'll be on the independent treasurer's report for you.
Okay.
And or if you want me to read that, I can read that out as well.
You're okay, are you, with where we have our money?
I am. I think if we were farther out from using that money to build the health and wellness center, I would say let's look. But we're so close to starting within 24 months, starting to peel it out
Mhm.
bit by bit. And with the uncertainties that everybody's facing right now, I'm kind of a hold 'em girl.
Yeah, I got you. That makes sense.
My dad taught me, you won't hit the highs, but you won't hit the lows. And it worked out well for the family. So, yeah, I'm comfortable with both of these vehicles. And again, if we were 5 years out from imagining investing in the health and wellness center, it'd be a different story for me anyway. I'd want to explore more,
Mhm.
but I'm comfortable with where the money is right now.
Okay, so we would have no recommendations to make to the board in that regard, right?
Right.
Okay.
And our 1,600,000, rounding up 1,700,000 in LAIF is holding steady. And I think next month we will have an interest
I believe so.
in our quarterlies.
Okay,
So I'll read out the required statement for the auditor, which is that the cost value is 1.667,379.73, with a fair market value of 1,635,281.33. The performance rate for the month of November was 2.007%, and that's for the LAIF report.
And trust we didn't have an unrealized loss this month. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so the CalTrust account, similar to LAIF, again, a very conservative report.
the cost basis, average cost for this account is $5,747,000. And we earned about 10 grand in dividend income for the month.
Yep.
With an unrealized gain of $34,000. So the portfolio is total as of 11/30, I presume,
Correct.
is $5,558,885.
Correct.
And the return is 1.16%. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
And then the document that we're showing on the screen here is our standard compliance report that we always just simply include. And that is always on the website. And that just gives a little bit more detail about these 2 accounts. And then this report is put forward from the district's accountant to make sure that it is also in line with our investment policies and all the other pieces.
Okay.
And now it takes us to 7.
Property tax revenue. So that's what we talked about as far as the financial statement, the profit and loss statement, where we got our portion of $748,000 for November.
Correct.
Thank you, local taxpayers.
Yes, thank you, county, for distributing it to us.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's move over to the check detail report.
Mhm.
I looked through it. I did not have any, nothing was giving me heartburn.
Right. These are all items that are in the current budget and no surprises.
I did ask the executive director a couple of questions with regard to the credit card, and I'm
Mhm.
totally satisfied with her explanation.
So we can go to report number 9, which is the umpqua card. Let's reference that for our viewers.
Okay. So that's where we are, the Umpqua Bank Visa card. And that's what I was referencing. I had a question with regard to some overseas transactions, but they have to do with regard to our translation services.
Right.
I am so sorry.
Translation calling.
Yeah.
Totally, totally.
Big brother was listening.
Big brother.
Yeah, there.
Okay.
And then Terry, just as an update, we will be bringing forward to the January board meeting the new signature card, where as treasurer, you'll be able to sign the checks that the district writes. So currently, Barbara and Jennifer are my signers. All checks that the district produce are signed by board members only. I do not have signing privileges. So checks at $5,000 or above require 2 signatures. That's again a secondary internal control for us. So you'll become very familiar with the checks that you'll see on a regular basis. And we'll walk you through that overview process of how you initial what you check, so that you're that final set of eyes typically on a check before it goes out from the district.
So when do we start the check signing process and signing off on the invoices and things of that nature?
You'll do that after this January board meeting, where we have to have minutes that approve you as a signer for the account.
So
And
I'm clear for a while then, right?
Yeah,
I'm
you,
not on the
you,
hot seat yet.
you've got at least a week.
Fair enough.
And then obviously what's nice is that Jennifer and Barbara, as post-chair and previous finance committee member, they're very familiar with the process.
Mhm.
So it's an easy, streamlined process to be able to add you into that loop as well.
And anytime your schedule is gummy and either Barbara or I can also sign. So we back each other up.
Perfect, works for me.
Good.
Excellent.
And then we'll also walk you through the process of how to do that potential quarterly transfer from the LAIF investment account into the operating account.
Mhm.
That can only be done by the same small number of board members. But we'll walk you through that. We have one to do. So I'll have Jennifer come in, since she's still on that list, to work with Raquel to teach her how we do that as well, since we have so much new process.
Newness.
There's a lot of newness. Yeah.
Okay.
So any other questions on the visa statement? And I think that puts you to your final report, number 10.
Community Investment Fund report. And what do we need to talk about with regard to that?
Nothing. It's really just, again, a listing of those investments that are done to the district's property, primarily over at the Community Health and Wellness Center. So you'll see what's listed there is Wellness Center HVAC. So the new offices that we're organizing over there for the center staff, their HVAC was put in. We had to upgrade a number of locks, and we've gone from the old-fashioned key locks to some combo locks. And that's so that community members who are using a room for a program, they're not issued keys. We don't have to worry about losing keys. They'll have a combination that they'll be able to use to access that room. And then that way we'll also be able to know who has access. And then we had an invoice from Taylor Design, which is our architectural firm. This was finishing up some of the previous project. Again, that's where you'll see some information from locksmith. Darren Key is one of our local handy people,
Handy persons.
handy persons.
Back to Taylor Design.
Uh-huh.
The date, the transaction date is 11/23. Is that just the date that we processed it, or was that an invoice date?
That was probably the date we processed it.
Okay. And the reason I was asking is, when did they actually do something?
The final, most of the work that I received back from them was during mid-October. They got me some different data near the end of October. Near the end of October, and then we've mostly been waiting for election to finish and then boards members to be seated, and then that'll be what's brought forward at the January meeting.
Okay. Fair enough. Anything else on that?
That's it.
And Terry, something I figured out along down the lane is these are redundant figures from the reports you've already had. But this is a one-stop shop for board members or community members to see specifically how the money is going to the center in detail. So it's a transparency effort.
Gotcha. Okay. Alrighty. So we're down to item number 5, board member comments and agenda items.
Actually, you're on 4A, your discussion items. That's that discussion of the current audit status, followed by the 21-22 financial transaction report, which roll into each other.
Okay. So, we're going to talk about the fact that we are still waiting for our audit.
This is our 3rd year with this firm, right?
Yes.
So we rotate every 3 years, so we don't get too cozy.
Yeah.
So I'm glad. You know, sometimes you have difficulty. Ultimately, if I'm correct, the report is good.
Mhm.
It hasn't, you know, been an incompetent report, but these timelines are a little irritating.
Well, it puts us, it exposes
Mhm.
us. And as I understand it, it certainly has an effect on doing our obligation to do the financial transactions report too, and that's problematic. Too. So we will be addressing that to the board meeting.
I would imagine we would, when is the ETA on it?
That is still pending. So Susan and I have both, we met with Terry and indicated where we were in the process. We're waiting for additional feedback questions from David, our primary contact with CLA. Susan was going to reach out accountant to confer and find out if there were any final pieces. The management letter still has not been written, and that's typically what Susan and I work on. So we're waiting for them to give us their final so that we can make those final reports.
My experience with other entities that have to go through the same thing is the management letter. Typically, they prepare the letter and all we do is sign it. Is it pretty much the same
It's
thing?
pretty close. There's a couple of areas where we add a little bit more detail, and that's primarily the context of the grants. And that is doing an overview, bullet points on that, and then any responses we may have back to their comments.
So I just want to make sure that what's the name of our firm?
Clifton Larson Allen, so CLA.
CLA. I want to make sure that we're not giving CLA an excuse for them not completing their report by us not having provided a management statement is essentially what it is. That we are in compliance with doing what we're supposed to do when we know our job and all that kind of stuff.
Yep, at this point, as far as I know, unless they come back to us with some additional request, They have received everything they have asked for.
Would it be appropriate for, and Rachel could certainly do it, to send them a communication, just saying, we are waiting. Is there anything else that you need from the district that you're waiting for in order to complete this report? I just want to make sure there is nothing that they have to hang their hat on.
Right. So have they confirmed that they have everything they need?
No, they haven't. We are, so last week, Susan sent an email directly to David. He responded to her with one very small little question, which she's already handling. And then he indicated that they were, sorry, things were running a little late. They were moving their offices.
Mhm.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and request and get a confirmation that they have everything that they need to complete the audit? And that'll give us a date when they affirmed it.
Works for me.
Just a little confirmation.
Yeah. Well, it certainly makes them understand that.
Right, we're watching.
We're waiting. We're
We're
waiting.
watching, we're waiting.
Okay.
May I ask a question about Betty Yee's 4-page tumultuous?
For epistle there?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. So the special districts are getting a lot of attention, it would look like. So is Susan aware of this?
Yeah, this is a standard report we do every year. It has to be, it's pretty much finished and submitted by the auditor. So this is the domino
Yeah.
that we're struggling with.
Mhm.
So I will be following up with Susan.
Okay, in
to
that,
see where
in
we
that
are.
confirmation deal, I would like it to include, we are aware of the FTR that is due to CSCO by January 31st. And we expect it to be filed in a timely manner, something like that.
Yes, and if there's any reason that you're not going to be able to have that done, you need to advise us immediately.
Oh, yes.
Right.
I don't want to go getting outside of my lane because it really is a bill kind of a thing as far as the dropping the hammer, but
Oh, no, we,
I'm concerned.
yeah, we need to turn the heat up
Mhm.
and at least get the confirmation loop. So we go, no, that's not what you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I have no doubt that if this thing isn't in on time, that there's got to be some consequences for that. I would think. Not the least of which is them coming out here and doing an audit of their own, and us paying for it.
Yeah, we don't want red flags around our name.
That's exactly correct.
Okay, so,
It's already on my agenda to be following up with Susan and see where our friends at CLA are.
Okay,
okay,
that's all I have. We just need to make sure that some kind of discussion or a board agenda item is there. So we need to have the discussion with the board. The board needs to aware that there's some exposure. At least
how
I-
we might handle that is when you are called on for the finance committee report,
Mhm.
you would say to our brethren and brethren that we discussed the concern with the tardiness of the audit report and action is being taken to confirm that they have everything they need. We are following up diligently, and you would do a report of that nature.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it'll be in the minutes too
Yes.
of the meeting. So Raquel takes our minutes
Uh-huh.
and then they
She does a
become,
good job from what I understand.
yes,
Thank
she
you.
does.
Judith has been assisting, so thank you.
And then they become part of the board packet, so you can reference them and say, as noted in our minutes.
Yeah. And I'm not looking to CYA. That is really not my intent at all. My intent is to keep us out of harm's way.
Oh, of
Absolutely.
course. No, CYA is good at times.
Yeah, well. I suppose. I'd rather just keep us out of trouble.
Right, let's do it.
And one last question for me at our board meeting. Does Jeff normally attend those board meetings?
Yes,
Good deal.
he is there to be advice and counsel as needed.
Well, I've always viewed my legal counsel as my sword and my shield.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Before we close, would it be appropriate for Rachel to talk to Jeff and express our concern with regard to the financials, the audit report delay. And might it be appropriate for him to put a call in or some kind of contact to CLA or wherever the heck they are?
I can, once I confer with Susan, if she hasn't gotten any traction from David from last week,
Mhm,
then I can at least loop Jeff in to the concerns
mhm.
so that if,
Would you do that, please? Yes,
absolutely,
okay.
yep,
I will sleep a lot better.
Yep.
Yeah, because then Jeff will be our, our sword on our shield and
If the
pit
wheel,
bull
if
if
the
we
wheels
need
come
it.
off, he'll
There
be
you
the
go.
first
There you go.
phone call we
And he'll
make,
be
so-
well apprised, and that's
Exactly.
always important. So
Yeah.
that's a good call.
And that's all I'm looking to do is
That's
to
right.
head it off at the pass.
Yeah.
Hearing no other business, I believe that we're prepared to adjourn.
Yeah.
My
that is-
thing just fell over, so we must be done. All right. Good job, ladies.
Good job, sir. Did you like your picture in the paper? It's so cute. Got a cute